Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Hashir Ayas. I am the student of Ryan School Islamabad, affiliate Kimper Foundation level. So we are discussing my ChatGPT on the topic of I am fine. So let's start.
Absolutely, Hashir. I'm really glad you're taking this on. So, just to get us started, what's your personal take on the phrase "I'm fine"? Is it something you often say, or do you feel like it hides deeper feelings for you?
What does I am fine usually mean?
Great question. I think most of the time, "I'm fine" is kind of a default response, like a social mask, where to explain. Sometimes it's just a shorthand, or I don't want to talk about it. What do you think? Does that match your experience?
Why do people say I am fine even when they are not?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to not wanting to burden others, or maybe they feel like they're supposed to have it all together. Sometimes it's just easier to say I'm fine than to get into a complicated emotional explanation, especially if they're afraid of being misunderstood or even judged.
Is I am fine sometimes used to avoid difficult conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. It's often a way to avoid digging into something heavy. Like, a conversation might be comfortable, it's just simpler to keep it at surface level. And sometimes people aren't even fully aware that they're doing it. It's just a reflex.
When did you say last say I am fine without meaning it?
Ooh, reflective question. I think the last did it was probably a few days ago when I was just too tired to get into what was actually going on. And sometimes you just say it without even thinking. How about you? Have you had a moment like that recently?
Can saying I am fine become a habit?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's super easy for it to become a habit, just a quick automatic response. After a while, you say it so often that maybe even you start to believe it, even when things are actually more complicated underneath.
Does society expect people to appear strong?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a big cultural push for people to seem resilient or put together. So there's this subtle pressure to downplay struggles. It's like there's a fear that being vulnerable might be seen as weakness, even though we know that's not really true.
Can I find protect someone emotionally?
Yeah, it can, in a way. Sometimes just saying I'm fine gives you a moment of emotional buffer, like a tiny pause before you have to face something bigger. But of course, it's a short term shield. It doesn't actually resolve what's going on inside.
Is pretending to be okay harmful?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, sometimes you do it just to get through the day, but if you stay in that space too long, it can be really isolating. So I think it's important to balance it. Sometimes it's okay to say, I'm not fine, and let someone in.
How can listening help someone open up?
Yeah, listening is really powerful because it gives the other person a safe space. When they feel heard without judgment, they often start to lower their guard. So just being fully present, no rushing, no fixing, can really encourage them to share more honestly.
Okay. Does being busy help people and emotion?
It can, at least temporarily. Sometimes being busy keeps your mind occupied so you're not overwhelmed by your feelings, but it's kind of a double edged sword. If you never slow down, those emotions can pile up.
Okay. How can listening help someone open up? What happens when emotions say bottled up?
Yeah, that's a really important point. If emotions stay bottled up for too long, they can come out in really overwhelming ways, like sudden outbursts, physical symptoms, or just a sense of being completely drained. That's why having that outlet, like a trusted listener, can be so crucial before it all builds up too much.
Why do some cultures discourage emotional expression?
Yeah, a lot of it ties back to traditional values or social norms. Like sometimes cultures value stoicism, self sufficiency, or keeping a strong front. So sometimes showing vulnerability is seen as a weakness or something that disrupts the group's harmony.
Can saying I am fine create loneliness?
Yeah, it really can. Because if you keep saying you're fine, even when you're not, you might feel disconnected from others, like you're pulling away. And over time, that can create a sense of isolation, like you're carrying everything by yourself.
Is vulnerability a strength or weakness?
Ooh, that's a really powerful question. I think vulnerability is actually a strength. It takes a lot of courage to open up and be real. And when people do, it often deepens trust and connection, even though it can feel really scary.
Why do teenagers sometimes hide their struggles?
Yeah, that's really common. A lot of teens are still figuring out who they are, and they might fear being judged or misunderstood. Plus, there's often a pressure to seem cool or independent, so they might downplay their struggles so they don't feel vulnerable.
Okay. Can saying I am fine create
Yeah,
loneliness?
it definitely can. When you just brush off how you're really feeling, it can make you feel like you're on your own, isolated, because no one really knows what's going on inside. So even though it might seem easier in the moment, it can really create distance.
Why do people fear being understood?
I think a big part of it is that being misunderstood can feel really isolating. People worry that if they show their true feelings, others won't get it or might even reject them. So they stay quiet to avoid that risk, even though it keeps them from being fully seen.
How can parents encourage open conversations?
Yeah, that's a big one. I think parents can really help by being non judgmental and by listening without jumping in to fix everything. Also, just showing up consistently, like asking how they're doing regularly, can make a big difference so kids feel safe to share when they're ready.
Okay. How can does being busy help people avoid emotions?
Yeah, being busy kind of acts like a distraction. When you have a packed schedule, your mind stays occupied, so you don't have as much time or space to sit with those uncomfortable feelings. But, it's more like a temporary escape. The emotions don't really go away, they just get delayed.
Can work or studies become distraction from feelings?
Yeah, absolutely. Work or studies can really become a refuge, like a place where you feel productive or in control. But again, that can just postpone dealing with those deeper
Wh-
feelings. So it's kind of a balancing
Why do
act.
some people feel uncomfortable discussing emotions? Geo.
Yeah, that's really common. A lot of people worry that if they talk about their emotions, they'll be seen as overly sensitive or out of control. And sometimes they just haven't been taught how to express those feelings in a safe way, so it feels awkward.
What role does trust play in sharing feelings?
Yeah, stress can be a huge barrier. When you're stressed, it's like your body's in survival mode, so you might not have the energy or openness to dig into emotions. Plus, stress can make you worry about being vulnerable, like, will this make things worse or will I be judged even further?
What role does trust play in sharing feelings?
Yeah, stress can really complicate it. When we're stressed, our focus narrows, and we often just want to keep things under control. So even if we feel a lot inside, stress can overwhelm us, making it harder to slow down and say what we really feel.
Okay. How can
Of
schools
course,
support
if any,
emotional well-being?
yeah, schools can make a big difference by creating a safe environment where emotions are okay to talk about. They can have open conversations, offer counseling services, and train teachers to recognize when a student might be struggling. It all helps reduce that isolation and makes it easier to reach out.
What are healthier alternatives to saying I am fine?
Yeah, that's a great point. Instead of just saying I'm fine, you could try something like I'm having a tough day, or I'm feeling a bit off, but I'll be okay. Or even just saying I could use someone to talk to. So you're inviting that connection without going into too much detail right away.
Why do people sometimes feel alone in a crowd?
Yeah, that's really common. You can be surrounded by people, but still feel like no one really sees you or understands you. A lot of it is about that deeper sense of connection. Just being around people doesn't always mean you feel truly
How
seen.
can kindness encourage openness?
Yeah, kindness is really powerful. When someone is patient, non judgmental, and just genuinely kind, it makes people feel safer. They're more likely to let their guard down and share what's really going on inside because they know they won't be dismissed or rushed.
Can talking about problem reduce stress?
Yeah, it really can. Just putting those feelings into words often takes some weight off. It helps you process what's happening and it reminds you that you're not alone. Plus, sometimes just being heard can help you feel more in control of the situation.
Is I am fine always dishonest?
Not always, no. I mean, sometimes it really is just a quick, honest check in, like, yeah, I'm okay. But a lot of times it's a mask for something more complex underneath. So it's always good to pause and ask a bit more if you can, since something's off.
Can silence communicate emotions?
Oh, absolutely. Silence can say so much. Sometimes it's a sign of sadness, uncertainty, or even just a need for space. It can hold a lot of weight, and sometimes it even invites the other person to step in and be there with you.
Okay. How can people become better listeners?
Yeah, that's a great skill to build. I think it starts with being fully present, putting away distractions, making eye contact, and really listening without rushing to respond. Also, asking open questions and showing curiosity can make a huge difference so the other person feels like they're truly being heard.
What advice would you give someone hiding emotions?
I'd say be gentle with yourself. You don't have to rush into sharing, but try to find at least one trusted person, whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a counselor who you can open up to, even if it's just a little bit at a time. And remember, your feelings are valid and you deserve to be heard.
What advice would you give someone hiding emotion?
I'd really encourage them to take small steps. Maybe just write down how they feel first or talk to someone they trust, even if it's just a bit. And remind themselves that they don't have to have everything figured out at once. Just giving those feelings a small voice is a big step.
What message would you share with someone struggling silently?
I would say you're not alone, even if it feels that way. Your feelings matter, and it's okay to ask for help, even if it's just a small step, whether it's reaching out to one person or just giving yourself permission to feel. And you are so worthy of support.
So, viewer, this is my ChatGPT on the topic of I am fine. So, this is successfully done. So,